Yeah, I mean, it has been a quite a good experience, of course. The plan was to climb Broad Peak and K2, and we did it. But the way there was not so easy, and it could have been gone wrong many times to prevent us from scaling summit. So I'm so happy, and I'm also quite happy to go home after 1 month on the glacier here.
Welcome to Interviews. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have an opportunity to share with you experience of Belgium's one of the most experienced, seasoned, and well-accomplished mountaineer, Niels Jespers. Niels visited Pakistan this season and he was able to scale ascent to the summit of two 8,000ers in a row, and even that without oxygen, a big accomplishment. He has become the first Belgian and the eighth mountaineer in the world to accomplish this mission of scaling two 8,000ers, and even that without oxygen. K2 is the second highest peak of the world, and it is supposed to be the most difficult peaks to climb. And Niels was successful in climbing that peak on 28th of July. And before that, he was able to ascend the Broad Peak, which is also 8,051 meters high. And even that we peak, the Niels did without oxygen. Welcome back, Neil, to Belgium. You have just arrived yesterday, and we are happy to have you in our program. Very warm welcome and heartiest congratulations on this big accomplishment. We know that doing K2 was your childhood dream, and you had been trying to accomplish this dream, and now you have been successful. What is your experience, and how do you feel about it?
Well, it was never, it was always a dream, but a dream doesn't make for a plan yet. So I never planned to climb this mountain just until 3 years ago after successfully climbing Nanga Parbat. So then it more became of a plan, and then I was finally ready, or I could finally imagine to also accomplish this childhood dream of climbing K2. I tried 2 years ago, and then I had a problem with frostbite on my toe, so no success. And this time, yeah, I'm so very happy that it was successful. Also because you put a lot of focus and energy in it, and now I feel like I can also more like it's like a relief also to move forward, you know, because I was so much focused on this one the last years even. So then it makes that makes the big meaning of it. No, it can be anything for anyone else, but for me it was this mountain, and it was like 3-4 years of my life focusing on it. So that makes also that why it's such a why I'm so happy now that it was successful, and then I can leave it behind somehow. No, I can finish this chapter.
Yeah. And what other peaks you have done already, like other than?
Yeah, I've been climbing my whole life, but if you refer to 8,000-meter peaks, then it's Nanga Parbat in 2018, and then this year Broad Peak in K2.
Mhm. And other mountains you have been visiting, climbing?
Yeah, since I was 16, I went on a youth alpine course with some Belgian alpine club. And ever since, I spent all my holidays mainly in the Alps when I was young. And then at some point, I was living in Bolivia amongst 6,000-meter peaks. So there I had the experience to go to higher altitude and to gain more experience to climb. And after the 6,000, I had like maybe 4 or 5 peaks I climbed, and then I thought, okay, well, let's move on and see what 7,000 does. So I went to Kantengri, which is a peak in Kyrgyzstan, my first and only 7,000-meter peak. And after this was successful, then I imagined climbing an 8,000-meter peak, and then I selected Nanga Parbat for this because it used to be my nickname with the youth alpine club. So everybody got like with Boy Scouts, they got a nickname, and mine was Nanga Parbat. So that was my choice of this mountain to be like first 8,000-meter peak. So yeah, that's it.
And Nanga Parbat is also supposed to be Killer Mountain, one of the very difficult mountains. So, what is in K2 that makes it so difficult to climb? It is supposed to be the ultimate mountain. So, what makes it so difficult?
Yeah, it's mainly the altitude. So if you don't use oxygen, then the altitude is the most challenging. The climbing as such, it is steep, it is nice. I enjoyed very much the Black Pyramid, like a little bit of rock climbing, but it's not on sea level. It's not a big challenge, you know. But it's the altitude, yes. And then compared to Nanga Parbat, the other mountain, there was a very selective piece, like the Kinshofer wall is very famous on Nanga Parbat route. It's on 6,000-meter altitude, so it's a bit lower on the mountain, but it's very steep and very long. So such kind of climb was not part of the route of Abruzzi on K2. So you can always say what is most difficult. Yeah, it just depends. I mean, but for K2, it's obviously for me, it was the altitude. Yes.
And during your expedition, was there any moment that you can recall as the most difficult and the most, fearful moment in the entire expedition?
Well, difficult and fearful is different. So difficult was mainly the last 200 meters on K2. It was so slowly. We progressed very slowly. It took us many hours to the last 200 meters of altitude. So and then fearful, was the descent actually, because then we had some rock falls in the Black Pyramid. So this one was the most scary, because then I had to put my backpack on top of my head to protect. Not that any stone hit it, but just it was very close actually. So that was the most scary and also very difficult. It looks like easy or not very mentionable, but just the process of being in a too small tent. I'm quite tall, so the tents are a bit small for me. Being there, getting out of the sleeping bag, getting ready, making some water, making some breakfast, all these things are also difficult. I mean, everything is difficult at altitude. So I also want to mention these things that seems to be normal and easy, but yeah, that's also mentally also it's like a challenge to get out of the sleeping bag and to get ready for the climb, you know. But once you're like dressed and fully equipped and the backpack is ready, then it's also enjoyable to climb and whatever. But all these small things takes a lot of effort as well.
Yeah, and like when you climb without oxygen and you have all these other risks like falling off rocks and other things, and I mean you are actually in the death zone when you are above 8,000 meters, and without oxygen, like risks are even more. So it's a very candid and very curious question that what goes on in the mind of a climber, a mountaineer, when they are in this kind of risky situation, in a danger, and Do they think about their families? Like sometimes when we are in a difficult situation, we think about our moms or dad or our children or maybe whoever is close to us. Or sometimes when the weather is harsh, we are thinking of just a good, nice cup of hot coffee or something. And are there some thoughts that goes on, or you're just fixed on the
Uh,
challenges?
no, I was. Yeah, it was mainly again on this very high altitude, like above 8,300. Then at some point, yeah, because I was so tired, then you start thinking, oh, is this wise to continue? Is this yeah, is this? Then I felt a danger. I mean, really, then I just realized the danger of being there, even not climbing, just being there at this altitude. And then I imagined like, oh, if something now goes wrong, then it's very wrong. So then I thought about that. But then I thought also when I thought about giving up at some point as well, but then I thought about my family and friends instead, and their firm belief in me and confidence, and also the sponsors and the partners of the project. And I didn't feel the pressure of them. I could easily go home without summit, so I didn't suffer any summit fever, I think. But
Mm.
then, because of all this support and all this, yeah, this 3 years of preparation for it, that gave me the strength to continue. Also, to think of my friends and family who just believed I would be able to do it, and then I continued.
Yeah, it's what part of training you would say is the most important in giving you this kind of confidence and continue with all the hazards around?
Yeah, I mean, I found out that only Hugo and myself, my climbing partner, and me, climbed without oxygen. All the others with. So I
Mhm.
also knew if I want to do such a thing without oxygen, I need a very good preparation, and training is part of it. So that was very motivating. I mean, and then I always use an hypoxic machine, which is like a machine that takes oxygen out of the air and blows
Mhm.
it into a mask. So then I was training, for example, rowing on a rowing machine with this
Mhm.
mask. I was for 8 weeks at home. I was sleeping in this hypoxic tent, so the machine connected to a
Mhm.
tent and sleeping there. So then I knew that I mean I couldn't do any better or more preparation in this aspect, in the oxygen part.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I was running a lot, uphill, downhill. I live in a flat country, but then there are solutions for it. I mean, I used also a building to
Mhm.
staircases up and down as a preparation. It's very boring, but it's also part of the mental preparation, because sometimes on the mountain it's also a long day and an tedious job. So
Mhm.
then you also train your mind to stay easy and to say like, oh, whatever, if it's 4 more hours of climbing, yeah, okay, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a flat country and in flat lands. Why did this mountaineering thing came to your mind to pursue it as your hobby, or I would say?
Once we were on a family trip in France, and then we did a lot of sports, and one of them was rock climbing. And
Mhm.
then the year after, my father found like the announcement for this youth alpine course. So it was
Mhm.
actually his suggestion to me, and I said, "Well, I don't know yet. I'll ask some friends at school if they want to join me or not."
Mhm.
No one wanted to join me. Well, in the end, I went to this course alone. And yeah, ever since it became a passion, and I took every opportunity, for example, to live in Bolivia between the mountains, but also Alps. It's not the same country, but it's very accessible, you know. Um, some people live close to the mountains, but there's no infrastructure. But in Alps, you in the morning, early morning, you drive to Chamonix, and in the same evening, you can sleep on the glacier below Mont Blanc on 3,000 meter altitude. So in that sense, well, it's quite accessible. So within the day, you're in the middle of the mountains. Although it's quite a journey, but the roads are good, and there is some cable cars going up the mountain, and that's a big difference with all other mountains in the world. Actually, I think in that sense, the Alps are quite unique to be so accessible from the lowlands.
You talk about accessibility and other infrastructure. So in Pakistan, how do you find these facilities for mountaineers who want to climb these really high, magnificent peaks? What is your take on that?
Yeah, it's part of what attracts me, and I think many other climbers as well. No, it's actually opposite. It's just the opposite of what you can imagine in Europe. It's so very much inaccessible. Although I also spoke to some people who came for already 30 years ago and also this year, and they can compare, of course. And then they say, like, in the first time I had to go there, it was even maybe a 10 or 15 days trek from Dasu. And then gradually the road moved to Ascole. And even me, just comparing 2019 to this year, in 2 years' time, the road has extended from Ascoli and now already to Jula. There's a jeepable road, which makes for just only 4 days trek, while it used to be 7 from Ascoli or 6. So slowly it's getting more accessible, I think. But still, the glacier will remain there, so this will not change. Well, it will still be at least some days of hiking in, but that's already a big difference, and it changed. So, and then, but of course, the road as such is also very difficult because of landslides. Often it's blocked and these kind of things. But I think it's double when we see that the road is extended. I mean, it's also part of the attraction, no, for tourists and for mountaineers like us to go to such wild environment.
You talked about the road, but are there other facilities like the licensing and other support structure, the porters and other people? You find them like quite up to the mark, everything very supportive, or?
Yeah, of course, the locals outfitters company, and now I speak about my experience with Lela Peak expedition. Yeah, it's very good. I mean, they just arrange everything. I'm not used. Usually I travel on my own and I arrange all these things myself. But in Pakistan, it's on the one hand is not possible. The permit process and the porters, it's not possible to arrange yourself. As far as possible, they make sure everything goes smooth. Everything that's in their hands was good. But of course, sometimes something happens when the road is blocked. They can't arrange it. But yeah, the whole permit thing and passport checks, and well, I don't like too much. There's quite a lot of these things now on the route too many times. And also, for example, for hiking, I mean, I know a lot of friends who would like to do this hiking on the Baltoro Glacier, but and they are independent, experienced hikers, so they can just carry their tent, sleeping bag, food for even 7 up to 10 days, no problem. But it's very hard to find, because you need then a permission for hiking, and also there should be some guide involved. But then the problem starts, because then there's a guide, and the guide needs a cook, and the cook needs a porter, and the porter needs a donkey, and before you know, you're on a trip with many people, and it's very expensive in the end. I mean, for a regular trekking, it is like maybe $2,000-3,000 because you have to hire all this stuff, and that makes it very expensive. But for me, I'm still looking, if I want to recommend this trekking to some friends of mine, I'm still looking for a solution how you can convince just one local guide, because it's obliged, who want to share this experience with the foreign tourists, to just carry everybody one backpack, a very basic food supplies, and just go for it. And that's I was looking around any kind of hiking guide I spoke to, and always they say, no, we need a porter, we need we need a cook. And then you start, and then you're off with a group of 10 staff, and then it becomes slow, and it becomes too expensive for many people. That's my experience, and a different point of view, from the foreign tourists and from the local culture or the local habit, how to organize these things. Yeah.
So do you see any kind of cooperation between Pakistan and Belgium regarding trainings, or making things more attractive to tourists, or more Belgians going for mountaineering in Pakistan?
Yeah, training wise, yeah, we don't have mountains, so we also have only maybe 10 mountain guides, official mountain guides in Belgium, and they do their training in the respective countries like Switzerland or France or Germany. So we don't have much of this experience, I think, and then especially for the 8,000 meter peaks, not so many people in Belgium are involved in this, so that's a bit difficult. But on the other hand, I mean, there's always space or room to promote the climbing, and especially the trekking. I mean, there's even more people maybe interested in hiking on the Baltoro Glacier and on Gondogoro and or any other place in Pakistan, So in that sense, yes, I always, when I do like a speech or a presentation, then I always try to convince more people to also go there. I wanted to take my family last time, but in the end they didn't engage to go on the trip. So yeah, I mean, promotion I think is very important, and to spread the word, and I'm part of it. I always try to give a good impression of the country, because that's my impression, a good one. While for people who have not been in Pakistan, they generally have like a rather poor or bad impression of the country because of the news and the media. But everybody who has actually been in the country, they are very, all people I meet, Belgian people, they are very enthusiastic, and they will always recommend, I think, to go there. If you like adventurous traveling, let's say, or wild country with wild nature.
Yeah. Are there many Belgians who are interested in mountaineering, particularly the young people? Do you see many Belgians coming towards this side?
In general, yes. Yeah, there are many alpine clubs you would not expect, but in Flanders and also in Wallonia, every area has an alpine club, and they have but okay, it also includes indoor climbing and sports climbing and rock climbing, of course. And then part of these people also go to Alps, but not the majority. And in my club, for example, we have specific youth alpine course, and it's not the most popular one, but there is quite a scene of people who are climbing, actually. Yeah.
Okay, and does the Belgian government support climbing and mountaineering?
Not very much. The sports associations, the federation is somehow supported for their work. So they have some employees who can organize the climbing competitions and all these kind of things. So the structural, the organization is supported by the government, let's say, but individuals in general not. Well, I have to say that from the climbing federation, they also give me some financial support on before it. The first attempt I did. So if you apply with a project which is somehow, it has some official criteria, but there is some, but it's rather limited. I mean, it's not very much. Yeah.
Okay. And one important question: who was your coach? Who was your coach?
Yeah, Griet Veres she's a friend of mine, and I
Mm-hmm.
asked her at the very beginning, before my first attempt 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her to coach me, and more in the sense of the project. I mean, and sponsoring, because I'm not very experienced, or I was not very experienced in to find sponsors, and it was
Mm-hmm.
needed. Nanga Parbat I paid all myself, but without sponsors I was not able to go next year again for another expensive trip like this. So then I asked her, and she was coaching me on it. I did all the work, but she was giving advice and pushing me a little bit how to deal with a website and media, and how to try to find the right people for sponsoring. And yeah.
This is also a very important aspect, yeah, because you have to find like good sponsors. It's an expensive venture
Yeah.
you have to do. And
Again, many times people are, if they're a bit older, they might have some money, more money, if people are a little bit older. But yeah, for me, climbing without oxygen, I think it's now for me the best time to do this. I'm now 35 years old, so it will not get any better after this.
yeah.
So then it's a matter of having enough money as well. So then you have to go with sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to wrap up our conversation, like you had been visiting Pakistan many times and you have many friends over there. What is your impression of Pakistan as a country and people of Pakistan? Just if you can share some
Yeah,
of your
it's
memories and things.
it's amazing, and it's not very fair. I mean, if Pakistani people come into Belgium, they're not welcomed so warmly as on the other hand, how I was welcomed in Pakistan was amazing. You can go to any town or village in the street, and people will talk to you and ask if you need any help. And yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I always compare, like, indeed in Belgium also many Pakistani people, but it's different, how the Belgian people treat foreign people. In Pakistan, it's yeah, they're just too friendly. And for example, in one village on the route from Ascardo to Ascole, I met one man just because I was in the street, and then I was invited for tea. Now for this occasion, he insisted that I would visit his village to celebrate together, but we were very late, so then he still insisted that he gave a cake and some dried fruits. Just I was just 5 minutes there, but he insisted that I would take it to Skardu and to celebrate there. So I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
And you visited Islamabad and Karachi also briefly. You like those cities?
Islamabad, yes, some days. That's of course very different. Karachi, I did not visit. I just spent there a few hours in the airport, and then I flew back to Islamabad. So I can't really compare. Like, I only know the northern areas now, but I did take some time, obviously, to know the other valleys and to be in the village. And also, first time I was in Shimshal, herding the sheep to the summer grazing fields and going together with the people from the village. So that was really that's also part of the climb, or the expedition I like, to get to really know the people, stay a bit more time on one place than just to fly around and take some pictures, So I really enjoyed also sharing real life with some people from the villages. Yeah.
Okay. Niels, thank you very much. You arrived only yesterday, and I know it was a very hectic and very difficult trip that you have done, but heartiest congratulations that you have achieved so much to 8,000ers without oxygen and probably first Belgian to have done this, and the eighth mountaineer in the world. And thank you. You kept sharing your pictures and videos when you were there, and it was like a big connection that you maintained while you were there. And we
Uh-huh.
all very much liked it, and many people in Pakistan and Belgium were able to see you, like, and they were like updated almost very regularly about your progress, and people were actually making good wishes and praying for you, and the kind of comments they were leaving on the channel,
Uh-huh.
everyone was like, you know, actually
Okay.
waiting to listen the very good news.
Thank you very
And,
much.
and
Thanks
very,
for following and for commenting.
thank you very much. You're welcome. And we hope to see you achieving more in your future endeavors, whatever you want to climb and wherever you want to go and whatever pursuits you have in life. So wish you all the successes in your life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining.
Okay. Thank you.